I just really need
I heard the siren.
it's so I spend 12 hours and that's
That's okay. That's all right. Okay, we've got 8:30, so why don't we get started? Good morning, S&P.
Good morning.
Oh, we can do better than that. Good morning, S&P. Good morning. All right, who's ready for a weekend? Yay! All right, are we ready to wrap up week number 10? Yeah, and we're also wrapping up the visual system. This is our last day to spend on the visual system. As you can see here, on Monday, we'll be coming up on the ear and the auditory system. And I think you'll find that to be very interesting. That'll be a different cranial nerve. We've been on cranial nerve number 2, which is the optic nerve. And now we're going over to the auditory nerve, which will be cranial nerve number 8. So we don't want to spend too much time on cranial nerve number 2. We'll wear it out. Right, so we have to move over to the auditory system, and we'll be doing that on Monday. Just as a reminder, some folks weren't in on Monday, and this is what I handed out. This paper is due next Friday, 1 week from today. We'll have a student-generated discussion, and I think you'll find it really a fascinating topic on the power and justice side. And it will also build on what we're learning about with respect to the physical properties of sound and also the anatomy and physiology of sound. So looking forward to next week very much. Okay, why don't we begin by reminding ourselves of what we were doing for today. Today we had a brand new topic, and as I'm talking with you now, in the other room is my co-author, Michael Vaughter. Does anybody here know Michael? Michael Vaughter? Some of us do know Michael. Michael and I worked together at the end of his first year. It was the summer of 2011, and we worked on this paper, and then we also picked up on some work that Jenna Kelly had done. She graduated a year before then. So this is me with 2 of my student authors, and I'm delighted to be working with them and to have this paper published in the Journal of Vision. And that's what we're talking about today, because we're on the topic of attention. Okay, we've been talking about attention the last couple of sessions, so here we are again talking about attention. Okay, what I'd like to do is see first if somebody could provide for us maybe some of the vocabulary that they found to be challenging. Let's get some of the vocabulary words out. Or I'll give you another option, another way to contribute early in the morning, and that is if you want to give us some general ideas about what went on in this paper, that's okay also. Maybe the vocabulary was entirely clear. Okay, Briella's got something and Elise has something.
I wasn't so much confused by the vocabulary, but these 2 charts.
Yes, those 2 charts. We're going to go over those 2 graphs. We'll go over them in great detail. Briella was pointing to the first 2 figures, and they're going to be very important for setting a foundation for the rest of our conversation. Elise had her hand up also a moment ago.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what Gabor card was.
Okay, yes, thanks. That word is pronounced Gabor. That's okay, that's right. It's a Hungarian pronunciation. And the Gabor target is a patch. It's a gray and white patch that we'll be showing you in just a little bit. Okay, that's what our stimulus is going to be. Okay, some other vocabulary that threw folks, or something else that they thought was a good overview. Yeah, please.
I wasn't exactly clear on the frequency versus temporal aspects of the experiment.
Okay, spatial frequency versus temporal. Okay, yeah, so an important word that is introduced early on, and we might lose folks early on, is that the word temporal here is used to refer to time. So sometimes we use the word temporal to refer to temporal lobes being on the side, but other times we can refer to temporal as being time related. So we have space and we have time, frequently measured items in visual psychophysics and in other kinds of psychophysics, space and time. And so time is temporal. Okay, and then it's going to be spatial frequency. Who remembers dealing with spatial frequency in our Fourier section? Okay, that should all seem really, really good. Okay, so any other vocabulary just to get us started? Okay, Emily's got something.
I wasn't quite sure about Gaussian envelope.
Yeah, the Gaussian envelope. Okay, anybody who here has heard of a Gaussian distribution before? Okay, can we all draw a Gaussian distribution in the air if you know what that is? Let's all do it by gesticulation. Okay, so people are going like this, which is really, it's a bell curve. If you want to do it with 2 hands, it would be like that. Let's all do it with 2 hands. Let's get our Gaussian going. Okay, here we somewhat confusingly talk about a two-dimensional Gaussian, okay? And so it's not a really big part of the paper, but when we're talking about the Gabor patches that Elise asked about a moment ago, we said that we created those by multiplying a sinusoidal luminance profile by a two-dimensional Gaussian, right? So that's a mouthful. So what is that two-dimensional Gaussian? Can we do this one more time? Let's all do this together. Here's our Gaussian. Okay, that's our Gaussian curve, all right? And what we're doing here is we're creating a Gaussian along the x-axis, right? Okay, so here's our x-axis, and then we're going up and going down like that across the x-axis. Let's do this one more time, and stay with me because we've got a gesticulation coming up, all right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to bend on over. Can we all go like this? Okay, and then we're going to create a Gaussian along the y-axis, right? All right, so now we've got a Gaussian this way, and we've got a Gaussian that way. All right, so what we're going to do is take a particular image that we might show on the screen, and we're going to filter it through a Gaussian filter this way, and then we're going to go like that, and we'll put it through a Gaussian that way, and then we have a two-dimensional Gaussian. It's Gaussian along the x, it's Gaussian along the y. Who's following that x and y two-dimensional bit? Okay.
So you're changing the orientation.
Yeah, we're changing the orientation, right? So let's just see, let's talk a little bit about first a one-dimensional Gaussian filter. I'm going to stand here like this is the frame of a picture, and this is me in the frame, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to have a Gaussian, maybe luminance level for me. And what we can do is have really, really low luminance out here, really, really low luminance out here, and in the center we have higher luminance. So you get really a bright meat at the center, and then I'm getting a little bit darker, and it's fading off on the sides. Who's following that? So we can now take a picture of anybody or anything, and we can now Gaussian filter it. Does that work for us? Okay, so that's a Gaussian filter. And then what we can do is go back to the original picture, so it's me again, and we can now have a vertical Gaussian. So the idea here would be that right about here might be the peak of my vertically oriented Gaussian. So this region of me would be really bright, but a little bit higher would get darker, a little bit lower would get darker. So now all we've done is we've taken the Gaussian and we've tilted it this way. And we've now got a Gaussian filter on me going vertically rather than horizontally. Who follows that? And then we can do both of those at the same time, and we'd have a two-dimensional Gaussian. So if you're ever inside of some digital software, it might be software that you can use to alter pictures of any variety. You can Gaussian filter your pictures. Okay, Photoshop has lots of Gaussian filters available to you. All right, thanks for starting out. I wonder if we can set the stage this way. I'll put this back up again. And here's the title of our paper, Right Hemifield Deficits in Judging Simultaneity, a Perceptual Learning Study. So one of the things I wanted to start out with is just the idea of simultaneity. How many people think they have an intuition about what we mean when we say simultaneity? Yeah, and people are less sure about what we mean by simultaneity. Okay, some of us are less sure. Let's get some auditory simultaneity going first before we understand visual simultaneity. So I'll ask you all to be a drummer first. Why don't we try it this way? Two hands. Can we all tap? Okay, and they're going on exactly the same time. When I was a drummer, I started taking drum lessons in 5th grade. We learned right flams and left flams. Who's heard of flams before? Anybody hear of a flam? Flam is a fun phonetic word because it almost sounds like what it is. In the flam, what we do is we play the two hands at almost the same time, but now my left hand is going to hit ever so slightly before my right. But it still sounds like there's a beat going on here. How many people can hear that there are two things going on? There are two taps right next to each other, as opposed to these are perfectly simultaneous, or almost so, versus it's almost as if there's a little extension in time, right? We're extending this by creating some asynchrony between the left tap and the right tap. Who's okay with that? So they're almost simultaneous, but they're not exactly simultaneous. They're asynchronous by just small amounts. Then, of course, you can do it with the opposite hand. And drummers spend a lot of time practicing their left and right flams. All right, so that's simultaneity in timing. Okay? It's actually one of my favorite philosophical chestnuts. And it goes like this. How do we know whether two things happened at the same time? How do we know whether two things happened at the same time? So here I'm tapping. I'll try to get these going at the same time. Maybe they're not really at the same time, but I actually just can't hear the difference. There might actually be a very, very small difference in time between those, on the order of microseconds. But my auditory system isn't precise enough to pick that difference up. If we had a machine or a high-speed camera or something like that, we might be able to see that these actually are not exactly synchronous, but they're as synchronous as my auditory system can allow. Who's okay with that? Okay, so we never really know whether two events happened at the same time. It might seem that way, but then if you have greater and greater precision, you might be able to reveal that, you know what, that one on the right happened before or after that one on the left. And you could demonstrate that if you had infinite precision, perhaps. But any real biological system, like the ones that you and I have, won't have infinite precision. It's going to have precision down to maybe milliseconds, maybe sometimes a little bit less than milliseconds. Okay? All right, so that's the problem of simultaneity in hearing. And then we can do this also in vision. As I'm moving back and forth across the room, and my legs are going toward the door in this case, the rest of my body is going with it. And then I'm coming back over here, and the rest of my body is going toward the window. So there's a simultaneity now in the objects on my body, the different components of my body, they're all moving together. We can have visual synchrony, which might be something like this. Here's the top stimulus, which would be a Gabor patch. Here's the bottom stimulus, which would be a Gabor patch. And they might change orientation synchronously or asynchronously. Okay? And we could vary the extent to which they are asynchronous by tens of milliseconds or even individual milliseconds if we wanted to, and we can figure out how precise your visual system is in picking up simultaneity. Okay? At some point, we can actually make them asynchronous, but they're going to be synchronous to your system because it's only so precise. Okay? Who's following that? Okay? So that's the general phenomena under investigation. It turns out, as you can tell from the title, that if you're looking straight ahead, we'll have you look maybe at the I in the word in up there. If I were to play this simultaneity game over here in your right visual field and go either or we could measure a D prime on that. Okay? And then we'll have you focus right over there. I'll play the same game, but now I'm in this hemifield. And I'll either go on some trials or okay? And it turns out that your D prime is worse in your right visual field than it is in your left visual field for that kind of discrimination. Who's okay with that? They're understanding what the phenomenon is. Now, it's not entirely clear why that's the case, but it just turned out to be that several investigators stumbled upon that. I wasn't looking for this 2 publications ago. I was actually looking for something else, and I happened to put some stimuli in the right side, some stimuli in the left side, just as a control, and I found wildly different kinds of performance in the right visual field versus the left visual field. And so that's what gave rise to this paper. Okay, so let's see if we could say one other bit about simultaneity, and we'll also talk about something called temporal frequency, which we've introduced before. We can think of temporal frequency as the number of cycles per second. Okay, temporal frequency is cycles per second. You can also think of it as the number of cycles per time. Okay? And so one possibility might be, and we'll show you this in a moment, that you've got a faster temporal frequency in your left visual field than you do for your right visual field. And what I mean by that is your neural response to things out here happens with greater precision in time than does your neural response to stimuli out here in the right visual field. Okay? So it might be that it's more precise. Here's one idea that I think will help us. Sometimes when people are learning about temporal frequency, a real-life example will help. So you can tell me, are there buses that run from here to Easton? Do students have access to a Easton bus, something like that? There's a shuttle? Okay, there's a shuttle that goes that way, right? And how often does that run? Twice a week, okay? Okay, it runs on Fridays and Saturdays. Has anybody taken that? Taken the Easton shuttle? Okay, all right, so we're going to try to build on that idea. We're going to try to get from here at Denison all the way out to Easton and Columbus. Okay, that's what we're going to do, and we're trying to understand temporal frequency. I'll need a shuttle that runs a little bit more frequently than that. Let's pretend that the shuttle runs something like every hour on the hour, just to get the conversation going. And we're going to say that you pick up the shuttle right next to Doane. Okay, we all know where Doane is, so that's where the bus stop is. And we're coming up on 9 o'clock in the morning. east in on different buses. Not only on different buses, from the original once or twice a week. Right? Why do things look as they do? Well, because how fast is the visual system? And it turns out that axis. Okay, we have time on this axis.